What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be back and making yet another deck profile today. I know it's been a little bit since my last one. I keep saying that every single video. The last video was Plunder Patrol, and I think that was about a month ago, but I've been trying to do more streaming on Twitch with Dueling Book and also making Lord of the Rings Online content. But I'm here and I'm ready to give you guys a pretty cool deck profile that I enjoy, and I know that Distant Coder also enjoys it. And that deck profile today is Unchained. Unchained got some pretty nice support in Darkwing Blast from this one card specifically, and that is Muckraker from the Underworld. It allows you now to run Tour Guide in the deck since your Unchains are level 3, as well as Sangan, to get some pretty nice 1.5 card combos that give you a good amount of grind game and potential interruptions during your opponent's turn. The only bad part about Darkwing Blast is the fact that it introduces the Bistids, which absolutely destroy this deck. The Bistids will just banish whatever your Sarama target is if it's a monster, and if not, they will banish the dog to prevent your grind game from getting started and from you having a massive advantage over the game. Which very much hurts this deck because it is a grind deck. It's a very good control grind deck, but if you hurt the resource loop in the dog, you're kind of crippled in that part. I would definitely say this is a good casual deck. If you're going to locals and you know that nobody's playing the Bistids or they're not really playing tier, I definitely would say that this is high up there and you can top your locals with it. But if you're in a very Bistid heavy environment with DD Crow and tier, this deck just really gets hurt more than tier does with the Bistids, and I would avoid this deck for right now until tier gets banned, until tier gets hit pretty hard, or the Bistids start to phase out because there's a better non-dark, non-light deck that comes out. When that happens, this deck can come out of the shadows, and it would probably be in around the tier 2 to tier 3 playability. Still be able to take some tops at locals, maybe a regional, depending on the format, but I would absolutely wait at this point and just play it casually. I do think the deck has some crazy potential, and I can't wait to see if it gets more support in the future, or from indirect support, or even maybe getting a new twin. But that's just my dream and hope, and I really hope it does happen. But let's get right into this deck profile, and I hope you guys all enjoy. So to start off, we're going to be running, of course, 3 Unchained Twins Aruha. We're going to be running 3 Rakea and 3 Sarama. Some people like to run 2 Rakea and 2 Sarama, but I think with especially the Bistids running around, the fact that your Sarama can get banished really hurts. Thankfully your Aruha and your Rakea can't get hit, but it really sucks at the fact that your main boss monsters and the way to recur them are dark, which is the bad part of the archetype, because we're also running the 1 Unchained Soul Disaster and the 2 Souls, which Sarama and these 3 are darks, which really does hinder the game plan because with the Bistids running around, as I was saying, what they'll just do is they'll banish the Soul Disaster and you lose your resource loop. You can still play, don't get me wrong, you can float with Aruha, Rakea, and Sarama, but then you have to be really careful on when you actually want to summon your souls because you have to predict if they're going to Bistid banish it. If not, then you will be fine being able to constantly recur the soul, because if it survives the turn and gets destroyed on another turn, it will keep coming back and they won't be able to banish it, which is pretty nice. I like running this ratio, as I said, because I think that it really is good in the grind game, and also having access to the Sarama and the Rakea for combo purposes if you have Tour Guide in hand is very useful, especially with the Muckraker being out now. But that's all the main deck Unchained monsters that we're running. We're running 12 in total, 3 of the small ones, then we're running 2 of the Abominable Soul, and the 1 dog. Going off into Unchained spells, I actually do play 1 Wailing of the Unchained Souls, and I play 3 A-Bombs Prison. I know most people don't like Wailing. You could actually swap this out for a Called By, and Called By is pretty good right now. Stops the D-Shifter. You can actually play through Dimension Shifter, which is not super hard. You just have to make sure that you don't go into your Sarama line to be able to set up the dog. You just have to go straight into like an Unchained Soul so you don't lose your dog loop. But I also think I just like having the extra thing that I can pop, because we're only running, and I'll go off into them now, we're running the 3 Escape, and we're running the 3 Abominable Chamber. This gives us 7 pop targets for our Aruha, and also, well, including the A-Bomb's Prison. This gives us 10 pop targets for our Unchained Twins to be able to do, and it's not bad. Also, Sarama can reset the souls, which is not bad in a grind game. I actually really do like it in the grind game because you'll just keep on link summoning Unchained monsters, using their monsters, getting free pops. So it's not a bad card, but you could definitely swap it out for a one-of if you wanted. But you need to run the 3 Abominable Chambers of the Unchained and the 3 Escapes, because this is the core cards that let the Unchaineds keep on grinding and playing. You'll often just keep on resetting your Abominable Chamber with Sarama, or resetting your Escape, constantly popping their cards and popping yours and floating into more Unchains, and after a certain point in the game, they just can't beat your resource loop, and you're basically just playing off the graveyard, and they're just in top deck mode. But that's all the Unchained spells and traps and monsters, so we're gonna get off into the more generic stuff. We're playing 3 Tour Guide from the Underworld. This is our new 1-card starter, which is really good. It's 1.5 cards to be honest, because you want to have a twin in your hand possibly. We're also running 1 Sangan. We're running a Dark Spirit of Banishment and a Dark Spirit of Malice. They're all level 3s, which is really nice, and this deck being level 3 allows us to go into some pretty good like link 2s that require 3s, such as like Cherubini. Cherubini gives us access to dumping the Dark Spirits, and if we actually have access to our Unchained line, because we can get Dog to Grave or Soul to Grave, the spirits will add themselves back to hand and be able to create a resource loop between the spirits and the level 8s. And they have to out your level 8s twice, and if they do, you are getting resources from your dog being popped, which is really nice. I think that Banishment is not as good as Malice. I like Malice a little bit more because of the fact that when they activate a card instead of attacking. The attacking portion is not bad though, because dog is 3k defense. So if they were to try to attack, you summon the dog back, becomes level 8. Well, it's level 8, its effects are negated, which don't matter, but they have to attack into a 3k body. And oftentimes there isn't a lot of decks right now that are running over 3k monsters, except maybe for like a gigantic sprite, from what I can remember. The Sangan line is really good if you open a Aruha plus a trap and Tour Guide, because what you can just do is you can Tour Guide and then summon Sangan, then Tour Guide and Sangan going into Cherubini, and Cherubini dumping one of your Dark Spirits, and then you just go for your Aruha line with Sarama, go for your dog, and when the dog dumps, you're able to add back one of your Dark Spirits that you sent, and mind you, you can also activate Sangan when it goes to the graveyard to add yourself a hand trap, which is pretty good in the grind game and allows you to get some nice interruption going first. I think this package is really, really good. You can cut these if you want to and just run the Tour Guide, because it can summon just your Unchained Twins. And what you can do is you can just Tour Guide. If you open Tour Guide plus Rakea, for example, Tour Guide to summon Sarama, link off into Muckraker, Muckraker effect, summon back the Sarama by dumping your Rakea, and then what you would do is your Rakea effect, summon back the, or Sarama effect, summon back Rakea, then pop the Rakea, and then go for dog, and then you have Muckraker plus your Unchained Soul of Rage, which is a really good combo. But these are like the main, monsters that you're going to be using for your like resources loops and for grinding. And then we're finally going to get off into the rest of the cards, and the rest of these are all hand traps. I'm running 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. I'm running 3 Ghost Mourner. I'm running 3 Effect Veiler. And I'm running 3 Imperm. I think that Ash Blossom's alright with Keldo right now. It's not bad for stopping them, being able to do like Keldo, add another Earth Fairy, which is, I forget the other one. There's Keldo, Kelbeck, and then there's like the Knife Guy and a Guido, I think. But I'm not sure on the names. Ash Blossom's just generically good this format. Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill is to stop the Kit Kalos on summon. Same with the Effect Veiler and the Imperm. The fact that Imperm's not a hard once per turn going second is pretty good, and the same with Effect Veiler. It kind of sucks when you draw double Ash or double Ghost Mourner, but if you can draw like double Effect Veiler, double Imperm, most of the time they can't play through that much interruptions during their turn. But that's the main deck. We're going to get off into the extra now, and the extra is going to be, we're going to start off with the Unchained cards. We're running 3 Soul of Rage. You probably don't need to run 3 Soul of Rage if you're not running like Extrav or Prosby. I'm not running those because I'm trying to get more power cards, even though you could probably search them with the Prosby and be able to get your, like, Aruha if you have a trap, if you can't find it. I am a little bit too poor at the moment to afford the Prosbys, so I am just running this straight. I'm also running 2 Soul of Anguish and 2 Abominations. I find that 1 Abomination gets outed pretty often. If you get into a really long grind game and they banish your A-Bomb using a Bistid, I oftentimes like having a second one just in case. But now we're going to get off into the more generic links. And we're going to be running 1 Dark the Dark Charmer. You can use this to climb up into a Nightmare Unicorn, or you could just go into a Phoenix, which is not bad. I like using Unicorn because it spins like a Rukalos or something like that. Then we're also running some pretty important combo cards, which are Cherubini and Muckraker. I'm running 2 Muckraker for the grind game as well. I think 1 can get your combos done, but sometimes you might make another one later on in the game, summon out the dog, and then do dog plays, which is not bad. The only bad part is the fact that it can't be used as link material to turn its link summon, so if you can keep your Muckraker on the field, then you can just climb to like the Unchained Abomination on the following turn, or some other boss monsters. Muckraker is also pretty nice because what it says is if a monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, tribute a fiend monster you control instead. So what you can do is you can tribute the Muckraker to protect your dog if they try to lightning storm it or something, which is not bad. It gives the deck actual protection from card destruction, which I think is something that they kind of needed. We're also running 2 more boss monsters. We're running Topologic Zeroboros. You can link into this using your dogs, and banishing is really good this format, especially with tier. If you can get your Topologic Zeroboros off and banish their whole field, then I don't think that they can usually come back from that. And then the last card we're running is 1 Borrelsword Dragon. Borrelsword Dragon's pretty good. I can use it to push for game often. What I'll usually have out is maybe a Unchained, like the A-Bomb Soul, and then I'll have the Borrelsword, and that in and of itself is game if they can't out that, because what you just do is you attack with A-Bomb Soul, attack with Borrelsword, then Borrelsword effect, turn the A-Bomb to defense, and then attack again for game. But that's the deck profile. I actually want to show you a pretty cool 1.5, I'm going to show you a cool 3-card combo that this deck can do. It's not super hard to get to. Oftentimes you'll be drawing it or ways to get into it. The combo just basically requires a tour guide, and then either like an A-Bomb's Prison and a trap, or an A-Bomb's Prison plus anything that can be popped. Basically any way that can get you to an Aruha. So any way that gets you to Aruha, we're gonna say that this is Aruha in this case. A poppable spell or trap that will get you an Unchained plus tour guide. And this isn't really a hard hand to get, I would say. What you're gonna do, you're gonna start off with a normal summon of Tour Guide. Tour Guide's going to special summon from your deck a Sangan. When you summon this, now after you have summoned the Sangan, what you're going to do is you're gonna link off into your Cherubini. Your Cherubini, your Sangan's gonna go off, and usually what I'll add off the Sangan is a Ash Blossom. Then what you can do is you can activate Cherubini targeting itself. You're gonna dump from your deck to grave Dark Spirit of Malice, or it could be Banishment. It's either or, your choice. Whatever you think is gonna be better in the matchup. And then it's gonna boost the Cherubini to 21. It's actually not that bad if you're trying to push for game and you haven't used your Cherubini yet. You can summon that out and just keep on doing stuff. Now we have these cards in hand. We're going to set the Prison. We're going to activate Aruha popping the Prison. And then, Chamber. When Chamber goes off now, we're going to summon ourselves a Sarama. Then we're going to activate Sarama's effect, resetting the Chamber. And then we're going to pop our Aruha. Then after popping the Aruha, what we're going to do is we're going to summon the dog. Then what you can do is you can go for Sarama and the dog to go into... We're going to go into Soul of Rage. And then we're going to trigger off our Dark Spirit in the graveyard because Soul of Disaster went to the graveyard. We're going to add back Dark Spirit of Malice to hand. And from here, what you can do is, because we actually started off with Chamber of the Unchained, I'm going to link off Soul of Rage and Cherubini to go off into Abomination. It may not look like you have a lot here, but mind you, we also have 2 blank cards in our hand. So we started off with a 3-card combo, we added these off our combo, and then we have 2 more cards in hand, which could be hand traps. If they are hand traps, like let's say that the other 2 cards that we drew were like an Imperm and an Effect Veiler, I don't think that anybody can really play through this. It's a really strong board. Even though you're ending off on 1 monster and the Abominable Chamber set, you still have Imperm, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom. What you're going to do, of course, you're going to set your Imperm. I always put that in the middle column. And then we have Imperm set, so that's 1 interruption. We have Effect Veiler, which is another interruption. We have Ash, which is another interruption. Then what we also have is we have Unchained Abomination being able to pop if they can't get rid of it during the end phase. That's another piece of interaction. And then we can also chain Abominable Chamber of the Unchained and summon back our Soul of Rage to be able to use it to link summon during their turn. And what we can do off of that is we can Soul of Rage, link summoning using their monster to be able to summon out a Nightmare Unicorn, and then you can use Unicorn to toss the Dark Spirit if you haven't triggered it to bounce one of their monsters. That's another interruption. So yeah, this deck has a lot of crazy amount of interruptions if it's uninterrupted going first. Basically, from that simple board state that we had 1 second, let me reset it. We had 1 interruption, 2 interruption, 3 interruption, 4 interruption, going into Unicorn, 5 interruptions. Then we also have Unchained Abomination. Whenever something gets destroyed by card effect or battle, it starts popping. So we have around 5 interruptions with this simple board, which is really good. I think the deck has some pretty crazy, it has a very high cap on its power level, especially with the Muckraker now. Another simple combo, and I'll show you real quickly. Just let me reset my deck. Is actually using just a Tour Guide and a Rakea. Or it could be, yeah, it has to be Tour Guide plus Rakea, or it has to be Tour Guide plus Aruha. It's either one of those. So we're gonna say like Tour Guide plus Aruha, and for this, you actually need the 3rd card in hand if it's the Aruha. If it's not a 3rd card in hand, then you just need the Rakea. It's either Tour Guide plus Aruha, plus a 3rd card, or Tour Guide plus the Rakea. So what we're going to do is we're going to normal summon Tour Guide, and then off of Tour Guide's effect, we're going to summon out Sarama. It's negated, of course. Then what you can do is you're going to link summon now into the new card. You're going to go off into Muckraker. Off of Muckraker's effect, you're going to discard the Imperm, and you're going to summon back Sarama. Now here's the weird part. If you had Rakea, you could have discarded the Rakea and then bring her back with Sarama and pop her. Unfortunately, you can't do that now, but what you can do is you can activate Aruha, pop the Sarama, summon the Aruha, and then Sarama to get out the dog. Ooh, I lost the dog. There's the dog. And then from the dog, what you will do is you just link summon these 2 into your Soul of Rage. And mind you, you also had 2 cards left in hand, and these could be hand traps. So you have Unchained Soul of Rage to be able to link summon during their turn. You have Protection because of Muckraker for the Unchained Soul of Rage. And then also the Unchained Soul of Rage will float off into Sarama on the following turn, popping Soul of Disaster, bringing back Soul of Rage, and going for combo. Really good resource loop. These 2 cards, as I said, could be hand traps, so this could potentially be 3 interruptions. But the deck has a lot of ways now, especially with Muckraker being added to be able to combo off, but mind you, you just can't use the Muckraker to link off on the turn it's link summoned. I think the deck is really fun. I enjoy it a lot. I think in a casual environment, it could definitely stomp some people, but I would definitely wait 2 formats until tier gets hit very hard and it starts to phase out and people aren't playing Bistids as much. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile, and hopefully I'll see you in another one soon. The next one might actually be for hires. I recently got all my for hire cards. The deck has some pretty crazy combo potentials and thankfully doesn't lose to Bistids, because the only dark that you really have in the deck is Folgo, which is your link 3, but he's not often going to the graveyard, and you maybe have Seal, which is the only other dark. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this deck profile, and I'll see you in the next one.